thank you all for coming. This is exciting. So I'm going to pose the first question, and Adam is going to answer the first. I'm going to just use first names because it's, this is a friendly thing. This isn't a formal debate. All right. So first question is, many educators cite burnout, workload, and lack of support as reasons for leaving the profession. Do you believe Stamford faces more of a recruitment issue, a retention issue, or both? What specific policy and/or cultural changes would you support to address it? Go ahead, Adam.
Can you hear me? Yes. Per your instructions, I'll introduce myself first and then answer the question. I'm Adam Vandervoort. I'm running for the Board of Education. Thank you to the Stamford Education Association for hosting this event and for inviting me. A few things about me personally. I have lived in Glenbrook for 18 years. In 2007, my wife Jess is in the back there, and I moved to Stamford from Darien, specifically because we wanted our kids to attend the Stamford Public Schools, which they did. They went all the way through K through 12, Stark, Dolan, and Stamford High. My son Henry graduated from Stamford High in 24, so last year. My daughter Franny graduated in 21. I think she's somewhere in the audience too, and they both went on to college. Professionally, I am a corporate attorney. 26 years I've been a corporate attorney. I've been in 2 large law firms and then the chief legal officer of 2 public companies. I hold 2 degrees from the University of Chicago and a law degree from the University of Pennsylvania Law School. From 2014 to 2017, I was a member of the Stamford Board of Ethics, but that's an appointed position. It's not an elected position. I've never run for anything, is the first thing. And so why am I doing this? I'm doing it because I love the public schools. And I have observed the Board of Education meetings and the meetings of its committees and all the videos, and I've also watched in person, and I am certain that I can help. I can help lower the temperature of the proceedings, by ensuring maximum effectiveness of the board and by making sure, enhancing the way it communicates with the public. I also, from my job, I have substantial experience in executive recruiting, hiring, negotiating a contract, which is relevant to the superintendent search, and I've also done some labor and employment law, which I think that the board can make use of. All right, with respect to the question, Stamford is underpaying its teachers. Right? This is most acute with respect to new teachers, but more or less the same across the board. This is the only conclusion you can reach when you factor in the cost of living. $80,000 in Stamford is the same as $67,000 in Waterbury. The median rent for a 1-bedroom in Stamford is $2,500 a month, otherwise known as more than 40% of the pre-tax starting salary of a teacher. That is no good, not acceptable. We are running a large urban school system with mid-tier suburban compensation. So if I were looking to start as a teacher in Connecticut City, from the way I see it, Greenwich, West Hartford, Hartford, New Haven, and even Norwalk have more competitive pay than we've got. We absolutely need to fix that. We are pursuing what I would consider a self-defeating austerity. Every time a teacher quits, it costs us $15,000 to $20,000 to replace that person. Transition, recruiting, and so forth. Beyond money, we got to reduce paperwork. We got to protect planning time. We got to make sure that teachers aren't constantly being called upon to reinvent the wheel by stabilizing curriculum expectations. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Chris O'Brien, same question.
Thank you. Chris O'Brien, good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for inviting us. A little bit about me. I'm born and raised in Stamford. I attended Stamford Public Schools. I went to Roxbury and Clunin. Graduated from, went to Trinity Catholic after that. It's my parents' issue. Went to Providence College after that. Graduated with a bachelor's in economics and minor in finance. Spent about 10 years in finance, trading world. Got laid off, got into trades, and that's where I reside now. I'm a manager for electrical and generator division under a large home services company. I have 3 children currently in Stamford Public Schools. Part of the reason I'm sitting up here tonight is because of that. My oldest is in West Hill. My middle daughter Maggie's, and my oldest son Michael is in West Hill. My middle daughter Maggie's at Schofield, and my youngest daughter Molly is at Roxbury. The other side of me is my wife, and that's another reason why I'm up here tonight. Is my wife's been a teacher in the Stamford Public School system for 13 years. She was in corporate for a bit, wanted to teach, and she got her master's from College New Rochelle, dual certified in early childhood education, regular and special ed. She's also certified from K to 12 in special ed. She currently teaches fifth grade at Roxbury. Again, another reason why I'm up here, and that's my main reason why I'm up here. Pretty much is my kids, my wife, and your kids and your spouses. Um, you know, I don't think it's necessarily a retention or issue in a town. It could be a little bit of culture, but that culture starts from the top, right? I've never met a teacher who didn't enjoy teaching. Teachers like to teach, they like the kids in their classes, and they've never complained about students. You know, I see it every night. I see it every night when I come home, what the frustrations are. Larger, larger classroom sizes, extra workload, more responsibilities, less resources. The board needs to change that, and we need to start from the top. Um, and then the second thing is specifically on policy, we need to find a superintendent that's going to work with the students, with the teachers. Teachers don't feel supported. Teachers don't feel heard. A lot of teachers talk on Board of Ed meetings, and it just goes by the wayside, is what I hear. You know? And again, the reason why I'm here is because I listen to this. I listen to these Board of Ed meetings, and I hear the teachers talk, and I hear the frustrations in their voices. Um, Again, I hope one thing you hear from me and in my entire campaign is my passion, my dedication. That's what it is. I have a lot of passion for this. I love the city of Stamford. I've been here my whole life. And I think I'm in a good position to make a change in this place. Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Thanks to the SEA for having us all. I'm Jen Worley. I am a parent of 3 kids currently in the Stamford school system at the elementary, middle, and high school level. And that's really what brings me here tonight. Professionally, I'm a neurologist, so that's not that fun in terms of having 3 boys. But I spend my life taking care of people and approach every decision I make professionally, listening to people's stories, gathering data, and being empathetic to their experience in order to have the best outcomes. That's clearly very important to me. In fact, the majority of my job is listening to folks, and that's where I learn the most. Why am I here? Well, I have 3 kids in the school system. It's certainly not about my kids. It's about all the kids. It's about the teachers having a voice and the parents. The parents being able to express, because parents experience firsthand what's going on in the school district. In 2024, I was the president of TOR, and there were cultural issues in the school that were secondary to some of the adults that were there. And I was the PTO president and brought together parents, teachers, administrators, and the Board of Education to address this cultural shift and figure out a way to make the school a different environment in terms of learning. And in very short order, there were changes that have translated to a school that today has a more positive cultural influence on these kids, which candidly, in my professional career, is something I'm very, very proud of. And so that's why I'm here today. Because through that experience, I learned that bringing people together, everything is so divisive today, but by bringing people together, we can affect change that is a community. It's for the community. It's not for any particular individual. With respect to this first question, which I don't know if y'all have this question or recall what it was, but it was effectively educators cite burnout, workload, lack of support, reasons for leaving the profession. Do you believe Stamford faces more of a recruitment issue or retention issue? It's both, and this is not unique to Stamford. This is why teaching is so difficult. I have 30 seconds left, so I may not answer this. If you actually want to see my answer to this, you can go to StamfordElections.com vis-a-vis the League of Women Voters, because they asked about issues that need attention, and this was the issue I actually addressed prior to getting this question. So my whole take on this is there, and it's basically that we need to empower teachers. Teachers need to be involved in decisions that affect them so that they feel part of a community. Thank you all so much.
Dennis.
Hello. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, John. Thank you, SEA, for putting us all together. So, my name is Dennis Ladoce. I'm a proud Stamford native. I attended the public schools here. I'm a proud Westfield graduate, where I was captain of the football team and an active member in junior ROTC. My family's been in Stamford for many years, over 50 years now. Maybe you've been to Curly's Diner. If you haven't, stop by. You may catch me working behind the counter still. But besides that, I hold two bachelors in political science and public administration, and a master's from public administration from Cornell University. Now I'm running for the Board of Education because I care deeply about the community, and I believe good schools are the cornerstone to any thriving city. With the current state of our schools, it's clear that we have to change course. Our first priority must be finding a superintendent with a proven track record. It's someone who truly cares about the community as much as we do. And to ensure accountability, I believe a portion of the superintendent's salary should be tied to measurable benchmarks set by the Board of Education. A strong leader in that position will drive our second priority, improving student academic success, which we can start by supporting the return of midterm and finals for our upper grades and preparing students for college and careers. Our third priority is rebuilding that trust between the Board of Education and the public. As a board member, I want to make myself available. I intend to visit the schools quite often and to meet with the community and to ensure that everyone who reaches out to the board gets a response. Now, to answer the question, I do believe it is both a recruitment and retention issue, but because I'm limited in time, I'm going to focus on retention. We have lost 30% of our full-time employees in the last 4 years. And that's because teachers are not treated as professionals in this school district. As a product of public schools, I absolutely believe in our teachers. I know they can do the job. But we need to let teachers stay at one school if they choose and let them teach the same courses and reuse the same lesson plans, because consistency does matter. We really do have to keep our experienced teachers. We take the time and resources to train them, and they go to other school districts where the opportunity and the support is better than Stanford, unfortunately. So some of the cultural changes I would like to see is stronger and more accountable administrators, plus a superintendent with a clear vision and leadership to oversee the district. And for some of the policies, I had mentioned about benchmarking some of things tied to the superintendent's salary. One of those benchmarks could be teacher retention. And also I would support requiring the superintendent to regularly meet with the SEA president tied in the next contract so we can improve communication, transparency, and accountability for our teachers. Thank you.
Okay, so just real quick, remember to keep the microphone about 3 inches from your mouth. It'll be louder that way. Now we're going to go to our mayoral candidates, and we'll hear the answer to the same question and hear them also introduce themselves. Go ahead, Fritz.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fritz Shuri. Instead of rifling off my resume, I'd love to take this time to thank some of the amazing teachers that poured into my life, and then also let you know who I am. I first want to thank Jeremy White, who's still teaching at Stamford High, and I remember walking into his classroom where he literally asked every single person to go in front of the room and debate. And the question he made everyone ask was, who is the greatest rapper of all time? And that was a memory that I continue to have to this day. And he essentially taught me how to feel comfortable speaking in front of individuals. Larry Keller was a teacher and still is a teacher at Stamford High that looked at my first business plan and submitted it without me knowing, and I went and competed. And I remember losing, and he told me, hey, listen, you're going to go and give a number of speeches in life, you're going to open businesses, and you're going to be successful, and never stop trying. So I'll never forget those words. Gwen Reed taught me to love English literature, and she told me that no one will ever be able to take away anything that you learn. So try and gain as much knowledge as possible. Coach Boone made me love history and get into politics. And though he passed away, I only wish that he knew that I ended up going into politics and loving history. Steve Fasoli from the marching band, giving me my musical family that I still keep in touch with today. Ramon putting me on stage and telling me to articulate in the show Ragtime. So these are the teachers that I love and appreciate who have made me who I am today. And it's such an honor that the Teachers Union have created this opportunity for candidates to come out. So thank you to the teachers that are here. Thank you to the union for putting this on. And to answer the question very briefly, teachers that I know, that I speak with every single day, that had me even 20 years ago, clearly say that not only do they feel burnt out, but they don't feel heard. Very simply. We've had hundreds of teachers standing in front of the government center on rainy days saying, hey, listen, this schedule doesn't work, or hey, we need a real curriculum to teach off of. They are screaming sometimes from the rooftops and begging to be heard. So you want your teachers to not feel burned out. Let's start by ensuring that they feel heard. We want to create a space where teachers are able to put their ideas out safely without consequences. And secondly, and really lastly, I've heard a lot about teachers not being able to afford to live in Stamford. Listen, it is very simple. Let's create units, 200 units right now, and that will encourage teachers from all over the country to want to teach in Stamford. We want to ensure that we have teachers that look like the children that they are serving, but they cannot pay $3,000, $4,000 a month for an apartment or a condo here in Stamford. So let's create those units, and I promise you that will encourage teachers to come live in Stamford and serve the students in their community. Thank you.
So we're gonna have Nicola go first, or next, rather. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you to the SCA for hosting this event, and thank you all for showing up. It's a large crowd tonight. We just had a forum last night at the Ferguson Library. It was a very large crowd, so there's a lot of debates there, forums. And I'm sad to say the mayor is not here tonight, so some of us mayoral candidates hear more about education than the current mayor, so I don't know what happened, but I just wanted to make that statement. So Nicola Tarzian, I've lived here, was born and raised here all my life. I've dedicated 30 years to education, whether it be sponsoring sporting teams, philanthropic events, charities I've been on the Stanford Public Education Foundation, I've been Deception, I've been on Stanford Dollars for Scholars, raising millions of dollars of money for scholarships. I have my own foundation, the Target Foundation, which supports education and veterans and Toys for Tots events. So I've done a lot. I've been a teacher at Wright Tech, vocational schools, vocation. I know Fritz is big on vocation also. So vocational trades are part of my platform. So I've been involved in the community for so many years, and I love education. I'm self-taught. I've been, I own a business here. I've lived here, and education is kind of my backbone to Stanford. So I just want to make it clear. So let's focus on the question here. Retention and recruitment. It's definitely both. The subject was brought up. The teacher pay is an issue, competitive pay. Guess what? Some of our teachers are leaving the district for other districts because of the pay scale. It's obvious. So with a focus on our budgetary constraints, I know we have a budgetary constraint sometimes on the budget, but we need to support our teachers. And there's a lot of administrators that we have in the central staff office that maybe we can delegate some of that money down to the classroom. So we have that. We have minority recruitment. I've been on the Board of Ed for 10 years. Sorry, I forgot to mention. I was a Board of Ed member for 10 years, vice president twice, and chair of operations for many years. So minority recruitment. I've been on the board for 10 years. We keep up bringing up the subject of minority recruitment, and it goes away because, okay, let's have a meeting, minority recruitment, and then a month later, it's like, well, what happened to the meeting? Where's our minority recruitment efforts? Same with substitute teachers. We need more substitute teachers. Obviously, we're lacking substitute teachers, and that's putting more strain on our existing staff. What else? We're losing 100 teachers a year. The teachers need to be heard, as was spoken about before. We need more paraeducators. Central staff is it could be an issue. More teaching freedom. We need to allow some of these principals and teachers to have a little bit more freedom in the classroom. Not every student learns the same way. Not every teacher teaches the same way. So we want to see results, and obviously some of our results haven't been on par with the state. So I think a little bit more freedom and a little bit more support from the central staff and the superintendent, which I want to be intricately involved with, is where it starts. Thank you.
David.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the SEA for having this event. My name is David Cherniak. I'm a former student of Stanford Public Schools, and I'm running for mayor of Stanford because I believe in the power of community. And I believe our city deserves leadership that actually supports, listens, and invests in its people. As the owner of a local business, I've spent over 20 years working with other local businesses, helping them grow and stay rooted in our neighborhoods. I've seen firsthand the challenges they face, and I know how much potential we have when we come together and support one another. Our schools and small businesses are the backbone of the city. Yet too often, they don't get the resources or attention that they deserve. I'm running to change that, to bring thoughtful, hands-on leadership that puts families, students, and local small businesses first. I'm a business owner and someone who truly cares about Stamford's future. I'm here to listen, to work with you, and to build a city where every resident has a chance to thrive. Together, we can create a Stamford that works for everyone. As far as the question, I feel that Stamford is facing both a recruitment and a retention issue when it comes to educators. Great teachers are the heart of a strong community, and yet we're losing too many of them to burnout, overwhelming workloads, and a lack of real support. If we want to keep talented teachers and attract new ones, we need to make clear that we value and respect their work. We want to praise teachers for their hard work and recognize how difficult the profession it really is. This means giving educators more time to focus on teaching. It means investing in mental health support, competitive pay, and professional development. As mayor, I will work closely with the Board of Ed, teachers, and families to ensure the schools aren't just places of learning, but places where educators, feel supported and are proud to work at. Thank you.
All right, Mike.
Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for coming tonight. My name is Mike Lockman. I see many familiar faces here who have educated me. First of all, of course, on the proposed schedule plan going way back in March. This is one of the first issues I got educated on before the development plans. I think those are two huge issues. I won't stray from education too far though. I grew up in Stamford. I started off in the projects on the east side, Husher Street, Dale Street, Ursa Place. Um, no trust fund. I'm still waiting to find out about that. And I went to Stamford Public and Parochial Schools. I finished up at Riverwalk High. I think there were maybe 3 more graduating classes after I left. I went into the Marine Corps at the age of 18. I served overseas in the Persian Gulf during the Armenian hostage crisis. As I told my young daughter, they heard I was coming and they let the hostages go. Had nothing to do with the aircraft carriers, the fighter jets, or ROW. Okay, so from there I got out, and soon thereafter I joined the Stamford Police Department. I worked the west side of Southfield Village, where I thought I could serve best. Of course, I could have spent 20 years on Long Ridge Road getting out tickets, but I don't think that's really what the people of Stamford needed. And as a young guy, I enjoyed at a time when I did have some speed and I could catch somebody. So I did that. I was selected to go undercover for a couple of years in the statewide narcotics task force. Um, I could go on and on about that. That was tremendous. I love the freedom. I love putting drug dealers in jail, and making a better world for my daughter. Uh, from there, I came back. I was a detective. I was promoted to sergeant. After 22 years, I had to leave based on work-related injuries. I was, grateful I could qualify for the disability pension. Um, so let's, my family. My uncle had the Colony Grill. My brother had Brock's up on High Ridge. My wife was a police officer. My brother recently retired. Uh, this past winter, I decided I wanted to run for the Board of Representatives. My parents both served Board of Reps, Board of Finance, City Committee, Urban Redevelopment. I wanted to follow in their footsteps, and I was at a point in my life where I could do that. I let it be known. I was approached by a representative of the Democratic City Committee, and they had all kinds of great things to say to pump me up. And they said, "We just want to make sure before we support you that you will support the mayor if we back you." And I said, "Well, I'm sure I will on many issues, but according to the charter of my father, who serves on the Board of Reps, it's my job to represent the people." So I'll quickly go to answering the question. Many other candidates also spoke about the financial issues that teachers face in the housing, so I'll breeze right over that. But as a former Board of Ed employee at Stamford High, I usually had lunch with the history department. I have been sworn to secrecy about some conversations, but I did come away with a pretty good grasp of what made them tick.
Okay, we're gonna have to cut you off there. We're moving on to the next question, and now it's 2-minute questions. All right, the order is going to be a little different. So now the first person is going to be Chris. Let me read the question first. There has been a tremendous outcry and opposition from parents, students, and teachers over the new flexible schedule at the three high schools, Stamford High, West Hill, and AITE. Do you support the current schedule? Why or why not? And what, if anything, do you believe the board should do in response? Chris, you're up first.
So just real quick, when I get excited, and this is my first time running for anything like this, I tend to speak very fast and very, I get myself going. So I'm going to try to slow up a little bit this time and maybe you can hear me a little better. I think tremendous might be a little bit of an understatement on the schedule. I think there's a major outcry on this. There's a major opposition to this. I think one of the reasons for that is a lot of people feel like this was pushed on them. It was an agenda that was pushed on top of them without really having a say in it. For those of you who don't have a kid in high school, my son's currently taking math class, right? And when he finishes this class, he's not taking math again for over a few months. And how do we expect our kids to learn and perform and take exams and state exams when they're having such delays and such long layoffs? I mean, this is math. This is a common subject that we're taking here. I think the board needs to start looking at this now. We have, I believe, one more year of this left over, and we need to start making decisions now and start looking at other options now because we're not going to keep teachers. We're going to upset parents. Parents are upset, and it's got to change. That's the bottom line. This is a short and sweet one for me. I think it's just very obvious. Like I said, we got to start tomorrow. Board can start looking at this now, and we have to make a change.
Jen.
Schedule. So that's clearly a hot topic, as it should be. Like Chris, I have a kiddo who is a freshman at Stamford High, and this is called a flexible schedule, but it's intrinsically inflexible. I want to explain what the schedule is for those that may not understand the schedule, because I don't think I understood it until my kid was really in it. It's basically taking 4 classes for half the year, 4 classes for the second half of the year. So what that means is if you don't have math scheduled in the first half of the year, your kid is not going to see math from June to the end of January as it stands. That's fundamentally a problem, okay? Learning requires repetition, continuity, and integration. So having a fundamental prolonged period of time without reinforcing the material is just problematic. I mean, I'm old. I don't learn things quickly, so it's not relevant, but I need repetition. These kids need repetition. Their brains are developing. The schedule, as far as what the board is going to do about this, it has to be addressed. It's been implemented for a year. I wasn't on the board when this was implemented. I don't know the nuances of budgets and negotiations of contracts and whatnot that made this schedule go through. But fundamentally, if we're going to support a schedule like this, we need metrics to show that it's better than a 4x4 AV schedule. And being at AITE to discuss this is actually rather relevant because it's the AITE community that came down very hard on this schedule. They're very familiar with the schedule that works, which was the 4x4 AV schedule. So if you're going to tell me this new schedule is flexible, 4x4 is preferable, I'm here to listen as long as we have metrics supporting that. That's how I do it.
Dennis.
So I'm strongly opposed to this 4x4 schedule, and it's actually one of the top reasons I decided to run. Like Jennifer said, it's not flexible and it's not even about achievement. It reduced course offerings, including the ones that students needed to graduate with. And now families are hiring tutors to fill in those gaps. If I was in school now, I don't think this schedule would have prepared me to go to Cornell. And that's because students can miss 6 months of core subjects due to this rotation. And our staff, I got to give it to the counselors. They're working the best they can from the mess that the schedule has caused. And the teachers, they're picking up the workload and they're bearing for it. We have to support them. But it's not healthy for students and it's not healthy for our teachers. And despite that, there was overwhelming public opposition of this schedule, yet it still got pushed through. which shows the lack of representative leadership on this board. And if elected, I certainly won't support Michael Hyman as president of the Board of Education. I will support an interim superintendent so we can just take a breath and reassess as a community. Thank you.
Adam, you're up.
Hi. Not to be a broken record, I don't know if that metaphor dates me. There used to be records and things. But teacher compensation plays a role in this issue as well. Under the 4x4, teachers are being asked to teach more, sacrifice their preparation time, but for no extra pay. Now, under the collective bargaining agreement, I understand that this fits, but until we have competitive pay, we shouldn't be hiding behind contract language. So compensation is an important substantive issue at the heart of this topic, but then there's also been a serious communication breakdown with the community. I have reviewed all of the materials that are publicly available supporting this change. I've watched all the meetings, and I still can't definitively answer two questions. Number one, what problem was this solving? And number two, why is this the best way versus other ways that one might think of? Talking to potential voters, I've done some door knocking, I find that there's very little enthusiasm. There's a little enthusiasm for the new schedule in the community, not very much. There's a much larger group that fervently opposes it. And then there's even the biggest group, which answers, I'm not sure. So clearly there's been a breakdown in communication. Look, I can believe that times change, and my recollection of 7 or 8 periods running from class to locker to class, okay, maybe that's no longer optimal. The schools are a reflection of society, even as they shape society. But to quote Cool Hand Luke, or the film Cool Hand Luke, we had a serious failure to communicate at the very least. Big structural changes can succeed only when they're done collaboratively and with trust. Thank you.
Okay, now we move on to our mayoral candidates, and Nicola is up first.
Thank you again. I just want to mention one thing, because I'm one of the older members up here running for mayor, I love the AIT because I was part of the AIT, the inception of the AIT, when Tony Mazzullo, the superintendent back then, brought out this program. It's one of the best high schools in the state. And I actually picked this location because Ripon had the most land value at the time. It was 25 years ago. So let's focus on the block schedule. Yes, I am extremely opposed to this schedule. So let's back up a few tracks here. Back when I went to high school, we used to have a seven period high school. I thought it worked pretty well. There was, you had math, English, writing, you had all the curriculum, more continuity. So it worked. And then the past few years, well, the AIT had a AB block schedule, which I guess was very popular. I don't have kids in the school, but it was a very popular schedule. It made it the best high school in the state. Then we had a different AB schedule. Now there was eight block AB block schedule. Then we had a 7 block schedule. Now we have this inflexible, which we call it, block schedule that nobody likes. So what do we do about it? We need to find the right programs that fit our schools. And we need to find the right leaders to lead those programs. As a non-voting member of the Board of Education, I told you all, education is the backbone of Nicola Targia. I want to be an integral part of being part of the superintendent search, being part of the schedule, being part of the curriculum, being part of every aspect, physical fitness, ROTC at West Hill. There's so many different programs that I want to enhance. Vocational schools, guidance counselors, get our children to the right sources, college kids, IT, the list goes on, and I could keep on going about how I want to be involved in the Board of Education, and that's closest to my heart. Thank you.
David.
Thank you. If they had this schedule when I was a student at Stamford High, I would not be happy. I've listened closely to the concerns from parents, students, and teachers about the inflexible schedule. When that many voices across our community are raising red flags, we need to take it seriously. I do not believe we should double down on a schedule that clearly isn't working for many of the people it's meant to help. Education policy should never be a one-size-fits-all approach, especially when it affects student learning, teacher workload, and family routines. Whether or not the idea behind the flexible schedule had merit, the rollout lacked transparency. The Board of Ed now has a responsibility to pause and reassess with those that most impacted, especially educators and students. And as mayor, I would be an active partner in ensuring major changes like this are implemented with community input added transparency and flexibility to adjust when things are not working. In my own opinion, the board should hold public forums that lead to real adjustments, conduct a full impact review of the schedule's effects on teacher and student workload. And most importantly, be willing to change course. It's not serving the best interest of our students. Leadership means actually listening and acting when the community speaks. Thank you.
All right, Mike?
Thank you. I just got a fairly brief answer to the second question, so I'll just finish up the first very quickly. When I was talking about the history department here at Stamford High, you getting to know the folks, got to know what they would take and what their frustrations were to some extent, but it never vented about their core role as educators, even when they have very challenging students. Many of I lost to figure out where many new policies originated. They weren't in the trenches, they weren't consulted, they were often told that the really cool policy was created by unnamed folks in central office. I think we all know what the solution is here. Collaboration with stakeholders goes a long way, and I will mention that in my next. It's also okay to schedule. I'm not supposed to schedule. I've been board at meetings. I've demonstrated in the rain with you. I've spoken before the board and while you all spoke very eloquently about the details of the schedule, I gave the board of ed a little bit of a civics lesson, or at least a couple of them that needed to hear it. Specifically Michael Hyman, and I told him if you do not follow through on your campaign promises to represent the people of Stamford, we will find new rear ends to get in those seats in November. We meant it, and here we are. So thank you again for coming. Do not support the schedule because I respect the overwhelming consensus of concerned parents, educators, administrators, and my favorite, brilliant Board of Ed member who I will not mention. I have no experience in their world, and my daughter's been out of high school for longer than I care to admit. No data, study, or logic has ever been presented, to my knowledge, to change anybody's mind. Dr. Rhodes' very own book on the schedule states numerous times that it cannot be implemented successfully without stakeholder collaboration. Not only has there been no collaboration with stakeholders, but when two principals refused to help the superintendent to enthusiastically sell the new schedule, they were threatened with legal and insubordination charges. In the end, we discovered that the
All
new
right,
schedule.
sorry, I'm gonna have to cut you off again.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, our last mayoral candidate for this question is Fritz. Go ahead, Fritz.
So both principals came out and said that they do not support this schedule. Dozens of teachers came forward and said they do not support this schedule. Hundreds of families came forward and said we have concerns with the schedule. What happens? The board decides to push the schedule forward. I'm literally looking at two seniors right now that are in this room. One literally has one class as a senior, two study halls, and work release as a senior right now. The other was put in a math class where some people are honors, another is college prep. So they're all at different levels, also given two study halls and early work release. These are seniors who are graduating in June. So that was a failure. There unfortunately is nothing that we can do this year. What you all can do is elect 3 new board members, and that new board can decide to shut this program down and bring the schedule back. And should they decide to change the schedule, have meaningful conversations with stakeholders and teachers and decide how to push forward. But unfortunately, the only option now is on November 4th for you to elect 3 new board members, and that new board will change the schedule. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next question. Jen, you're gonna be the first one to answer, but let me read it to the audience. The mayor currently serves as a non-voting member of the Board of Education. What do you believe the mayor's role on the board should be? Please provide examples to illustrate your view.
Okay, thank you. Like Michael, I don't have a long answer to that particular question. I just want to quickly talk about the schedule one last time, and then I'll put it aside. The reality of the schedule, it was said that the rollout was seamless. The rollout was not seamless. I want that to be known. Kids are in the wrong classes. They can't be accommodated because it's inflexible. You understand, you have 4 rather than 8 periods to work with. So I just want that to be clear because it's affected so many kids in a way that the rollout was said to be seamless, but the reality is that that was not truly the case. With respect to the mayor, this particular question, I'm more interested in hearing from the mayoral candidates as to how they feel they would serve and help the Board of Ed. Because fundamentally, the mayor's role is in many ways separate from the Board of Ed, but they are a non-voting member. So as I think of this question as if I were to serve on the Board of Ed, what would I want? I would want a mayor that was collaborative, that would come to meetings, serve on committees, help give their opinion on where we can help in terms of school infrastructure. I would want them to be involved in those decisions and use their expertise. As far as the current mayor, Mayor Simmons, to her credit, she has leveraged her relationships in Hartford and secured $576 million from the state to help support our schools, specifically the West Hill Roxbury project. And that's incredible. That's a really positive thing the mayor has done specifically to help the school system and the Board of Ed. Thank you.
Dennis?
So what do I believe the mayor's role should be on the board? Well, I believe the mayor should be an active partner with the Board of Education. They should not stay silent. And unfortunately, the current mayor didn't step in when issues like the 4x4 happened, the horrible things that happened at Turner River and the incident at Westfield High School. And teachers, families, and students, they're very concerned. They really do need that visible and vocal leadership and cooperation from the highest office in the city. So I would like to have the mayor be someone who can unite the city with the Board of Education so families know that the board are making decisions based on student needs rather than their own politics. Thank you.
Adam?
Thank you. As part of this process, I've learned that legally the school system and the Board of Education are creatures of state law. They are not controlled by the city. However, the Board of Education has no taxing authority, so it relies for the city, is dependent upon the city for money. Now, given that the mayor has no control over the school system, the superintendent, or the Board of Education, it's appropriate that she or he be a non-voting member of the board. And since it's a practical matter, the board and the city have to cooperate. I think it's fine for the mayor to be an ex officio member. When it comes to education policy, thankfully, most of the culture war issues are decided in Hartford. Almost everything the board does should not be split along party lines. As such, I also think it's fine that the mayor does not generally attend the meetings so as to not make them unduly political or polarized. The boundary between collaboration and interference must remain clear to protect the school's independence from politics and to protect the public's trust. Thank you.
Chris? Yes, go ahead, Chris.
So, one quick thing, thank you for explaining the schedule a little bit better than I did. I was grateful for the minutes here. My view of what the mayor should be is that the mayor should be a bridge between the Board of Education and the rest of the government, right? The mayor should be there to help the board implement its policies, implement what it's looking to do, and be that helper, be that conduit for the rest of the city. But there's a word that hasn't been brought up yet today, which is accountability, right? And we need someone to be able to hold people accountable, and that needs to be the mayor when we need it. But on the flip side, we need to be able to hold the mayor accountable for what he or she is doing as well. We need the mayor to be part of this and use, like I said, and just use their accountability. Use that term to be able to help the board do what they need to do. Simple enough.
All right, now we go to our mayoral candidates, and David is the first one.
Okay, thank you. As mayor, I may not have a vote on the Board of Education, but I believe the role comes with a powerful responsibility to lead collaboratively on behalf of our families, students, and educators. The mayor's seat should be solution-oriented. That means showing up consistently, in my opinion, being informed, and using the mayor's platform to help bridge city resources with district needs. For example, if teachers are raising concerns about staffing shortages, the mayor should work with the superintendent and HR departments to identify funding, partnerships, or policy solutions that support recruitment and retention. If our families are voicing concerns about changes like the recent flexible high school schedule, the mayor should advocate for meaningful community input and engagement. If schools are struggling with outdated infrastructure, safety concerns, or technology gaps, the mayor can work across departments to direct resources where they're needed most. Ultimately, the mayor should act as a collaborative partner and create real alignment between what happens at City Hall and what happens in our classrooms. Thank you.
All right, Mike.
Thank you. I just feel a need to clarify some misinformation that has originated from our mayor's office having to do with school funding. When Mayor Simmons was part of the Democratic delegation, it was part of her job to secure as much funding from Hartford to bring back to Stamford. God knows we sent enough up there. She did a great job. She did get a lot of funding. She represented us well. Mayor Martin didn't take credit for that. I was at the June 25th Democratic City Committee meeting where Robin Druckman, the chairwoman, went on for about 5 minutes effusively, giving tremendous credit to Pat Billy Miller and our Stamford delegation. They were in Hartford. They did the heavy lifting. Of course, our mayor encouraged them to do it. We all encouraged them to do it. But for her to take credit for that and make it a campaign item is just disingenuous. Mayor Martin didn't take credit when she did the heavy lifting. She shouldn't be taking the credit when our state delegation did it. I'll go back on now. This will be relatively short. We've all heard the saying, the first step to ensure success is simply showing up. Mayors Malloy, Pavia, and Martin frequently showed up at Board of Ed meetings. They did not waste their bully pulpit. They gave input. I understand that our mayor has a very busy schedule and must constantly prioritize. I understand that she has told many concerned stakeholders that the schedule is out of her hands. I'm working very hard to take everything out of her hands, folks. If elected, I'm sure some will be disappointed that I don't make every ribbon cutting, testimonial dinner, or photo op, but I certainly will not be a stranger to the volunteers on our Board of Education.
Fritz.
Yes, the mayor is not a voting member of the Board of Education, but there are very clear times when the mayor does need to speak up. You know, there was a situation where the N-word was written on a school property here in Stamford. There was no comment. A swastika sign was put on the building and a comment went out on behalf of the city. Again, the mayor should represent all 135,000 residents that live here within this city. We cannot pick and choose which hate we want to go after. When an elected official makes a racist comment, the mayor has come out and issued statements. However, when a 14-year-old girl is arrested here in the city of Stamford and police are pointing and there's very little accountability in our schools, there is no comment or statement from the mayor's office. So again, it's either we represent all 135,000 residents or we don't. We cannot pick and choose when we make a statement. I do not think there's anything more important than what's happening within our schools and our children. So I personally believe that the mayor should be present at as many Board of Education meetings as possible. We are about to build new schools. Stamford has a track record of building schools and having them filled with mold and having teachers and students breathe that in. So I do believe that the mayor needs to not only be part of that process, but demand accountability with our elected officials. I do believe that that is the role that the mayor can play, even though they are not a voting member on the Board of Education. Thanks.
Nicola.
Thank you, Rich. Very well said. As you all know, education is the bottom of my heart. So if I'm elected your mayor, I cannot wait to get to those Board of Education meetings and be a part of those meetings, because that's my favorite part of politics is representing half of the budget. So attendance, I would definitely be at the Board of Education meeting. Experience, I think I have the most experience out of any of the mayoral candidates.
and all the Board of Education members. I have 10 years on the board. Um, I'm very, as you see, I'm very convincing in my methodology and speaking to the Board of Education to make sure they make the right decisions for education. And Fritz had mentioned construction. I'm a builder as a trade. I'm a LEED certified builder. Who better to have on a Stanford, sorry, not Stanford Board, who better to be your Stanford mayor than someone in construction that knows the pitfalls, the ins and outs of any construction project like Westover. I was able to go visit Westover, and within 20 minutes, I was able to figure out why the school was flooding because of the courtyard drainage system, why the water was infiltrating from the walls from not cleaned out gutters, infiltrating from windows and air conditioning units. So those are easy things for me to figure out. And no one else on the city has the experience of what I have. And also I want to be a shepherd and chaperone for educational cost sharing. I'm talking about $100 million disparity. Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven, Waterbury, they get between 150 to $200 million. Stanford gets $17 million. There's a tremendous imbalance there. And I'm going to attack Hartford on that. And as far as Mayor Simmons getting money from the schools, guess where that's been initiated from? From Nicola Tarzi and the Board of Education from 25 years ago. I've been bellyaching for capital spending and school spending for 25 years. So when somebody says Mayor Simmons goes up to Hartford to get money, it started right here 25 years ago in the year 2000 when I was first elected to the Board of Education. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next question. Dennis, you'll be the first to answer, but let me read it first. Disagreements between board members and superintendents can occur. If you strongly disagreed with the superintendent's decision, how would you handle it as a board member?
So disagreements are natural and they're going to happen, but we can handle it respectfully. The first step is to certainly have a direct conversation with the superintendent. I'll bring data, I'll bring community input, and I'll certainly bring how it ties back to our teachers and students. But if the disagreement remains, I'll come to the rest of the board and we can discuss it together as a team. But sometimes it's okay to agree to disagree. But what's important is to always stay transparent with the public. And if elected, I'll be part of this process of looking for a new superintendent. And I will support the superintendent with strong communication skills, trustworthiness, and someone who knows how to work with such a diverse board. Thank you.
Adam.
Hi. As a threshold matter, two things. Professionalism, respect, and trust are essential to all conversations among board members, and certainly between a board member and the superintendent. Second thing to bear in mind is that individual board members have no executive authority of any kind. Only when acting as a board, as an entity, do they have any power. So given those two things, I would ask under this situation, I would ask the superintendent for a conversation as a courtesy to me, and I would try to explain my concern and see if he or she could describe to me what it is that I'm missing. Okay? If that didn't do it for me, I would raise the issue with my fellow board members. And the majority of the board felt that it was appropriate and necessary for the board to get involved in the topic, we would. Crucial point I want to make, and having witnessed for a while now the goings on at the board event, there is simply no substitute for personal relationships of mutual respect and trust. Building those with every single member of the board and with the superintendent would be the first thing I do if I am elected. Thank you.
Chris.
So if I were to disagree with the superintendent, I think everybody's the same thing. It's a civil and calm conversation start, right? But one thing I want to make clear is, I'm a papa bear, I'm a fighter, right? So if I disagree, I'm going to come back with the facts and data to support my side. I also understand that this is an elected position. So even if my personal view isn't what is the agreement, I have to realize that I have people who've elected me on this board. I have teachers behind me, students behind me, parents behind me that I have to listen to. So those are the people that I'm going to fight for. Not just my own personal view of what's going on, but like I said, the teachers, the students, the parents, the people who put the taxpayers in the city.
Jen,
Thanks. Disagreements, that's the natural part of any decision-making process, especially when the stakes involve kids and teachers and their well-being. And this is a large school system, and it's very diverse, and that's the beauty of the Stamford school system. There's bound to be disagreements. I agree with that. Professionalism, respect is number one. Listening is most important. Understanding the superintendent's perspective, understanding why they came to a particular decision, what data they used, how it benefits and puts the kids first rather than politics or divisiveness. And and speaking and listening to the superintendent. And of course, if there's a misunderstanding or a disagreement, talking to the board. The idea of the Board of Ed, it's supposed to be a group of folks that want to do what's right for the school system, putting the kids first, putting the teachers first. So if the kids and the teachers are at the heart of the decisions, I would feel more confident that the Board of Ed and the superintendent can work together to agree. There's going to be disagreements. We don't all agree. That's okay. It can be a beautiful thing. But if we listen and we respect each other and we remain professional, I feel as though that's a system where the Board of Ed and the superintendent can work successfully together.
okay, we'll now move on to our mayoral candidates. Mike, you're up first.
Okay, thank you. As a former Marine and sergeant on a police department, certainly the stars of sergeant, so I was made well aware of chain of command when I was walking the beat under the tutelage of Frank Cronin. First of all, I feel compelled to briefly clarify the chain of command as it relates to the Board of Ed. Collaboration is great, and getting input from other folks, whether you rank them or not, is respectful, and it should always happen. But at the end of the day, we do have a chain of command. The Board of Ed members are elected by the citizens to represent us. They are responsible for overseeing the superintendent and ensuring that the superintendent's goals are in line with what the voters desire. That being said, they need to immediately correct the superintendent when he or she starts down a path that is less than ideal. This 4x4 schedule implementation has been in progress for many, many months. Strong opposition to this schedule has existed just as long. We need Board of Ed members who will take their role seriously without fear or political intimidation. Leadership requires courage.
Fritz?
First and foremost, every single person deserves to be treated with respect, no matter what your title is. The Board of Education, the 9 members, has 1 employee, and that is the superintendent. A board member can provide their feedback, they can provide their views, but that is a recommendation. The superintendent is in charge of the schools. If the board members do not agree with the direction, then either they can terminate the superintendent or not, or allow them to continue to do their job. But it's not micromanaging. If you have a disagreement, it's not a back and forth. Again, you need to be able to respect the individual that you have in place. If you don't like that individual that's there, or if the majority of the board does not agree with that, then you can remove that individual. So again, respect is important, but there shouldn't be a back and forth. There shouldn't be a needless micromanagement. And if you want to make a change with the superintendent, you take it to a vote and you push forward. Thank you.
Nicola?
Sure, thank you. I just want to backtrack on something, the mayor's role on the Board of Ed, that I didn't get to say before, is being in construction, I had to show the Board of Ed how to do capital budgets and operating budget expenditures. Every month we would get a report. Here's our expenditures or projects for the month. Then next month we get another report, piece of paper. Every month for 12 months we're getting these pieces of paper. I'm like, why not put it on a spreadsheet? Past year, current year, future year, funding source, location. Put it all on a spreadsheet so it's all understandable to the public and to the Board of Ed members who don't understand construction sometimes. So that's some of the value that I could bring to the Board of Ed on the mayor's role as Board of Ed. And for if I strongly disagree with the superintendent, I would take that he or she aside and say, listen, I'm the mayor of Stamford. You're half the budget, more than half the budget. We need to come to an agreement on this. I have the voting power for your budget. So you need to have some respect for the mayor's authority also. And I want to give you an example, the two holidays. Look what the Board of Education did for Veterans Day and Columbus Day. Look what happened to the uproar of the public. I mean, the mayor wasn't involved in those decisions. If I was a sitting member or non-voting member of the Stamford Board of Education, I could have nipped that in the bud in about 2 minutes and say we have to prioritize our holidays, save the public all this turmoil, all those meetings, all those bashings, and I could have saved it. Whatever, I could have been. That would have been definitely a top priority, and that's a perfect example of how the mayor should be involved and help delegate to the Board of Education. Thanks.
David.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd first like to say that everyone needs to show respect to everyone else and be treated the way they would want to be treated. That being said, if I strongly disagreed with the superintendent's decision, I would start by having a direct professional conversation with the superintendent with full transparency about my concerns. If the decision lacks community input, it is based on weak data, or has negatively impacted students or staff, I would push back clearly and publicly. The mayor may not have a vote on the board, but the office carries a powerful voice. I would use it to elevate the concerns of parents, students, and educators, and work with the board to find solutions that reflect our community's values and needs. This means respectfully but firmly standing up to leadership when a decision doesn't serve our schools well. That's the kind of leadership I bring, and it's the kind of leadership that Stamford deserves. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to our last question for the evening. And the first person responding will be Adam, and I'm going to read the question now. The Board of Education has begun the lengthy process of recruiting and hiring the new superintendent of Stamford Public Schools. How should students, parents, and educators be involved in shaping that decision?
Thanks. The opinions of teachers, parents, and students are very important and must be collected and used in building both the candidate profile and in making the final selection. As I understand the process presently occurring, once a search firm is selected, teacher, student, and public outreach will commence. In my opinion, this should take the form of questionnaires, small group interviews, and perhaps larger meetings. I'm told that Darien is undertaking a superintendent search and that they are going faster than we are. That is not surprising. Stamford is more than 6.5 times larger than Darien. This may be creating the impression that Stamford isn't going to get to the steps of listening to the public, and I'm confident and I pray that that is not the case, because we must listen to the public, and I'm confident that we'll get there. In my view, in addition to being superbly qualified on paper, the new superintendent needs to be someone who can manage by consensus, readily accepts feedback, including constructive criticism, and at least somewhat subscribes to Jeff Bezos' first rule, which is when you have anecdotes about a problem, but your data says there is no problem, the anecdotes are usually right. Thank you.
Chris.
Students and parents and educators should be an essential part of the hiring process for the new superintendent. And as the board, we need to be the representatives. We need to listen to the parents, we listen to the teachers, listen to the students, and see what they want. We need to find a superintendent that will work with us and support our educators. We need to find a superintendent that is dedicated to the success of the school system and dedicated to the success of our children. The city of Stamford has a great school system. We have excellent teachers in this town. We have great students in this town. We have fantastic parents in this town. What I'd like to really see the most as a parent is a superintendent who's going to lead our teachers. One of the biggest complaints and feedbacks I get from teachers and my wife and my friends is that they don't feel supported by their current superintendent. They don't feel the support. They don't want to be there. They don't want to listen. We need to find someone who's going to support them first and foremost.
Jen,
So this is actually one of the reasons I wanted to run for Board of Ed. I had no political aspirations ever. But I think it's important to have parent representation in helping guide and decide who becomes the next superintendent. I think it's important to have teacher representation and student representation to help guide and decide who is the next superintendent. And this is a pivotal year because clearly finding a superintendent is an enormous decision and shapes the culture of the school system and could fundamentally shift the trajectory of the school system. So there has to be involvement from the community. I think that this new high school schedule would have been more successful if there was more community involvement. Um, this has to be an individual who is comfortable working in a large system with diverse students and has to be a collaborative individual who will work with parents, teachers, and students. So I know with what we're all saying is variation of the same thing. But what we're trying to say here as folks that want to be on the Board of Ed is we're looking for someone who's going to collaborate with the community, put the students and teachers first, so that we can ensure there's excellence and success with the Stamford Public Schools. Thank you.
Dennis,
So I believe that everyone should have a voice in this process. The teachers, the parents, the students, and the community and taxpayers at large. The committee responsible for finding the search firm who determines the entire scope of the process should prioritize community involvement. And I anticipate that process to include focus groups and regular surveys. As a member of the Board of Ed, hopefully soon to be, I will oversee that process to ensure that it adheres to our commitment of stakeholder engagement. Stanford does deserve a superintendent who knows how to hit the ground running and not experiment with trial and error. And I just want to say this right now, throughout this entire superintendent search process, if anyone feels unheard, I will always encourage you to reach out to me directly because I am listening, I am focused, and I'm always engaged. Thank you.
okay, we'll hear from our mayoral candidates now. Nicola?
Yes, thank you. Great comments from all the Board of Ed candidates. Is definitely we need more parents and teachers involved in this. And as I said before, as a non-voting member, I will be integrally involved in the superintendent search. And from experience, I've worked with Anthony Mazzullo, Joshua Starr, Winnie Hamilton, Earl Kim, and Tamula Sora. So I can recognize who a good superintendent is. And I think we need a better business-minded superintendent because he or she is running a $350 million budget. So that requires some business sense and proper delegation. And as we know with the block schedule, the delegation was forced upon us. So that's one issue that I feel the superintendent has to listen. The superintendent has not listened. I wanted to bring that point before on this block schedule issue. So I just want to be intricately involved with that. And as a non-voting member, I will assure you, the parents here, that we'll find the right, maybe business-minded person, maybe more of a CEO type person, maybe a multilingual superintendent, minority representation, and the superintendent. Many issues that I can bring forefront to the superintendent with my experience. Thank you.
David?
Thank you. Yeah, hiring a new superintendent is one of the most important decisions facing the Stamford Public Schools, and everybody needs to be involved. Students, educators, parents, everybody. And and everyone needs to have a real voice in it because it's just too important not to have that. That means holding listening sessions up front, including community members on the search committee, and giving the public access to finalist interviews. This isn't just about hiring a leader, it's about building trust. As mayor, I would advocate for a process that's focused on finding someone who listens and actually puts students first. Thank you.
Fritz?
The most important thing that I believe that each and every one of you all here tonight can do is actually do your homework and figure out who you're going to vote for to sit on the Board of Education. Because only 9 individuals are going to have the opportunity to vote and decide who the next superintendent is. So this is the time where you all need to be sending out emails, meeting with individuals who are running. Potentially 3 individuals up here will be one of the 9 votes that will determine the next superintendent. So if there are individuals who don't align with what you believe in, it doesn't make sense to just go down party lines. It doesn't make sense to just blindly vote for candidates and then wonder why, when you're speaking at Board of Education meetings, when you're outside and you're protesting, nobody's listening to you. Those individuals were elected into office. So if you truly want your voice to be heard, ensure that you're voting for the right candidates, and when those individuals get elected, ensure that they are listening to you and they are meeting the needs of the city. Because that only, and I can't stress this enough, only those 9 individuals will determine who the next superintendent is. Thank you.
And finally, Mike.
Great. You know, my campaign started in February and I announced it in March. And the reason I bring that up is because the first phase of my campaign was listening. And I didn't realize just how much listening I had to do. I had to listen. What does BMR mean? What does BLU mean? How does these years late audits affect our AAA bond rating, which is on thin ice? If we lose that, the interest rate on the money we borrow for these major projects goes up and our taxes will follow. So listening was the first phase of my campaign, finding out what the priorities and the concerns of the citizens were, and then I needed to learn and listen. We need to listen. The children, the teachers, the educators, the parents. It's basic. I mean, as a society, when we hear somebody's got great communication skills, we think of people that are great orators. That's overrated in politics. Politicians speak very well. I'm getting a little more comfortable after many months, but I've found that what people really want is for me to be quiet and listen. And I've been able to do that. And it's just important that we get input from everybody before we put the plans in place. But I'll just say that, although we don't expect students to be helping with the interviewer selection process, everybody can play a role. Excuse me just a second. We can all monitor the process and do everything within our power between now and election day to ensure victory for the candidates that they believe will do their duties diligently without influence of politics. The students must come first. Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to say a few comments, then I want to hear a really loud applause. So just hold on for 1 second. I want to say, first of all, on behalf of the SEA, we're really proud of our community and how we've all come together and had this very informative discussion about extremely important issues in our city. We all love the same children and care about their future. And so this has been a really great night. Let's give a big round of applause to the candidates.